Welcome everyone to the channel. My name is Jake and I'm so glad that you are able to join me. Now today we're going to be talking about something that might be quietly sabotaging your ability to make an impact in other people's lives. Sabotaging your energy, your relationships, and your ability to show up as that person that you were meant to be. It's this hidden weight, that we don't always call out. We may not even think that this is what it is, but it's there. It's this weight of resentment, and it's costing you probably way more than you realize. So let me see if any of these kind of hit home to you. Like, let me just paint some pictures that might feel familiar. Like maybe you're a parent trying to stay calm during the bedtime battle routine, but something that someone said to you, a parent, a sibling, a friend, acquaintance, whatever, something that's said that's been heavily just weighing you down for a long time, a year, maybe 5 years, 20 years ago, and you just keep replaying that thing in your head and it's making you way more reactive than maybe you want to be. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur who, can't fully trust your team because your business partner betrayed you years ago, and now you're just micromanaging everything instead of stepping into, leading with your gifts and trusting them. Or maybe, I don't know, you're just showing up to work every day, carrying this bitterness, because you got passed over for that promotion, and it's affecting how you engage in any sort of new opportunity more than you realize. Now, what I've learned, and I know I've learned it the hard way, is that the emotional baggage that you carry, it's not protecting you, it's actually preventing you from accessing the very gifts, and superpowers that you have that could transform your life, and lives, impact the lives all around you. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending everything's fine. It's about understanding that the energy that you use to maintain these old resentments is the exact energy that could be fueling some of your biggest breakthroughs and clarity and deepest connections, and you being your most authentic self and being able to impact people in that sort of a way. Now, diving into this, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder, I'm the author of this book. It's called The GIVER Method. It came out in November. It's an Amazon bestseller, has tons of 5-star reviews. Thousands of people have purchased it and have seen massive impacts in their lives for, discovering deeper who they are, learning to move past fear, imposter syndrome, create more value, impact, influence in people's lives, and have deeper, more meaningful relationships. And everything we're talking about today is grounded within this. So if you haven't already bought the book, I'll put a link in the description down below where you can go get it on Amazon, get yourself a copy, and really start to see the impact in your own life. I'll put some free resources down there as well. But what I've seen as I have worked through my own journey, but also helping others, is I've seen how forgiveness, and I mean real forgiveness, not the fake stuff, it can unlock these gifts that you not even aware that you've blocked off. And so today I want to walk you through this framework that helps you start letting go of these things, because forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's not about freeing them from whatever it is. It's about freeing yourself, from what's been holding you back and allowing you to become what it is that you're meant to be. Now, before we dive in, of course, if you find this valuable, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Please ring that bell for notifications. I love when people leave their comments along the way, but really, I want you to be subscribed to the channel because I release multiple videos every week, and I don't want you to miss out on any of the stuff that I have around discovering those gifts and superpowers and making the impact that only you can make. Now, you may also be watching this video at some point and being like, man, I've got a podcast or platform or stage or community that needs to hear this message. If so, I'll put a link in the description as well where we can get connected and talk deeper about what that could look like. So with that being said, let's just dive in. Let's get started with because your emotional freedom, it is just waiting for you on the other side of this conversation, and you just need to start taking advantage of that. And so the first principle, and as we go, I highly recommend you grab a piece of paper, open up a notes app, something along those lines, because I give lots of ideas and things that you could go do, and I want you to jot them down so that you could start implementing them right away. And so the first principle strategy idea is recognizing the energy drain that's having on you. Create an audit. You need to understand the hidden costs of where your energy is going and spot the silent drain that's really stealing your strength. Because if you're crawling into bed at night and you feel like you've run a marathon and you can't point to what actually drained you, you're not alone. Kicker is it might be it might not even be the never-ending to-do list that you have that's really pulling the energy out of you. It could just be the old hurts, things that are still in you that you're carrying around that you can't see, but your body and your brain feel it every single day. There's actual research out there that goes with this. Some studies that were done out there show that people who are holding on to resentment spend close to 47 minutes a day replaying that old pain in their heads. Like, that's almost a full hour of mental energy, not on a problem you're solving, not on being present with your kids, not on building a business or your career, but on emotional loops that take you absolutely nowhere. And guess what? Busy parents, entrepreneurs, like people who work, like the time and energy you have, those are not luxuries that you just have to waste. Like, they're survival tools, and you've got to use these things wisely. Now, the part that, gosh, is really easy to miss is that you get so used to carrying certain emotional weights that it just starts to feel normal. You know, the tightness in your jaw during the meeting, that spike of anxiety when the phone lights up with that person's name, you know. You might think it's like just stress, but often like it's history. It's your nervous system, like your programming reacting to this emotional tab that just never got closed out. So here's what we want to do. We want to make this practical, you know. So we want to, like, you know, weekly, like take a week and look for our energy trace. Like every night, take a few minutes and like I'm telling you, like 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, and jot down the moments of the day where you felt maybe they were the most draining. And then notice the patterns, like look for the patterns and everything. If it's the same person, the same memory, the same situation that keeps showing up, you've probably found the leak. You know, you can also give yourself a resentment like body scan, you know, that's something you can take a shot at before bed. Like just pause and ask yourself, like, where do I feel tense right now? Maybe it's your neck, maybe it's your stomach, maybe it's your back. And then like, well, what happened today? Like, and did something happen today to cause this, or is that in the past? You know, that might, you know, but where's this actually living? You know, you might not. Like, you definitely don't want to try and fix this thing yet. You're just starting the conversation with yourself, like, that's probably long overdue. Like, why am I feeling this way? And then if you really want to take the next level, like, how you redirect the energy and you use visualization as a part of that. You catch yourself when you're in that mental, like, rerun of something that, you know, hurt you. Like, just hit pause on that moment and, like, now picture, like, what it is. Like, picture that energy, those 20 minutes you would have spent stewing, you know, being poured into something that, you know, that you could have been pouring into something that actually lights you up. Finding that project you care about, journaling about something your kid said that made you laugh, texting someone who fills your tank. Like, pause and just reclaim that time because it was yours to begin with. Don't let that resentment take over and burn the energy. Like, you know, this is a simple shift. Like, this is something that's just catching it and noticing it, because once you see how much energy resentment is actually stealing from you, forgiveness doesn't feel like such a fluffy idea anymore. It feels like the essential thing you have to go do, not just emotionally, but like physically. Resentment like jacks up your cortisol levels. It weakens your immune system. It seriously blocks your brain from doing what it does best at solving problems or leading or creating or showing loved individuals. You know, you can't show up as the parent you want to be, the leader you're meant to be, or the human you're actually trying to show up as when you, like, your emotional tank is just bone dry. Forgiveness isn't letting anyone off the hook. It's just unplugging the thing that's been draining you so that you can get back to what matters. And so that leads us to the second thing, the second principle or strategy. You know, you have to separate forgiveness from reconciliation. You know, you have the freedom to forgive without, like, rebuilding things, letting go without letting them back in your life. Like, that's what this is about. You know, one of the biggest mind shifts in the whole forgiveness conversation, and honestly, it might be like the one that unlocks everything else for you. Like, forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Like, stop, in, done, period, we're good. Like, that's where a lot of people get stuck. We hold, like, forgiving, like, someone, like, we're told as we hold this thing, like, you know, forgiving someone, it means that we're getting back to normal. You know, that we need to trust them again, open up again, rebuild what was broken. But the truth is, like, forgiveness isn't something, you know, you do for, like, forgiveness is something you don't do for them, you do for you. It's not about the other person deserving it. It's not about them apologizing. It's not about them changing. Forgiveness is about you being done carrying what they did. You can grow past it. You can move past it. You know, it's the difference between saying, like, I'm choosing peace and, like, let's try this again. Like, this is, like, emotional freedom. Like, the other's about rebuilding something, and those are two completely different decisions that you could look at. Like, and this distinction is really important if you're, like, already stretched thin. Like, if you're a parent, you know, trying to stay emotionally available to your kids, the entrepreneur, like, leading with vision, the employee navigating through different work dynamics. Like, You don't have the time to keep energy tied up in situations that you aren't living right now. And when you understand forgiveness doesn't require like relationship reboot, it gets a whole lot easier to move forward. Like, so let's talk about how you make that real and tangible day to day. So you can start by like, what's your forgiveness filter? Maybe grab a notebook or open up that phone app or whatever. And like on one side, I want you to jot down like people or situations that you know you've been holding on to maybe some heaviness around. You know, and on the other side, asking yourself like, do I want or need to rebuild this relationship? For most people and situations, you're going to realize that the answer is no. And that's not bitterness, it's wisdom. Like, you're just giving yourself that permission. And then you try simple, like this internal forgiveness statement. Like, and it's just for you, not for anyone else. Like, hey, I forgive you not because of what you did was okay in any means, you know, but because I'm no longer letting it take up the space and energy and my peace and my ability to be who it is I want to be. And you say that out loud, and you say it, you write it, you say it again, like as many times as you need to, so that you're telling your brain to just start closing those emotional tabs and moving on. And then of course, boundaries. Boundary planning is important. Like, forgiveness without is about freedom, but the boundaries protect that freedom. So while you're working on that emotional release, you also decide like what kind of contact or connection, if any, feels right moving forward. Maybe you limit that family member to holiday texts. Maybe you forgive your business partner, but you don't work together again. Forgiveness with boundaries isn't cold. It's just clean. It's protecting yourself and your energy that you need. You know, because the thing is, most people resist forgiveness because they think it means you're like letting that person back in your life. When you separate forgiveness from that reconciliation, you give your permission to heal without putting like yourself at risk again. You know, when you're in like a leadership role, whether you're leading family or business or just growth, like this emotional clarity is so important. It's everything to you. Forgiveness clears the clutter, sharpens decision making, strengthens the boundaries we have, and it helps you get clear and grounded emotionally, like available to what matters. You don't owe anyone else access to you, you know, but you do owe yourself peace. And so this is like how you start claiming that as a part of this, like, and which leads us to the third thing, like this daily emotional maintenance, like in self-forgiveness that you need to do. Like, there's this inner foundation that you're going to build, you know, the daily reset, some grace while you're at it for yourself as you go. Because here's something that we rarely talk about, but is absolutely need to be put out there. Most of us take better care of our own teeth than we do our emotions. You know, you brush and you floss every day and you're trying to avoid that long-term damage, but like, what are you doing daily to stop the emotional buildup from turning into long-term resentment? That tension in your shoulders, that tightness in your chest, like it doesn't come from like that to-do list. It's the emotional residue, and over time, it just piles up more and more. And layer in a mix of like self-forgiveness, like, oh my gosh, not just forgiving others, but forgiving yourself. You know, that's the piece that so many people skip. They're carrying around the guilt for trusting the wrong person. They regret that toxic job too long, that they you know, or they shame for losing their temper at their children. That's internal weight. It doesn't just sit quietly. It colors everything. How do you parent? How do you lead? How do you show up at work? More importantly, how do you see yourself? The goal isn't perfection by any means. It's just some daily cleanup. You know, a way to catch the emotional grind before it starts to harden. You know, just like you wouldn't, you know, skip weeks of showering and hope that a deep clean fixes everything. You can't wait for the meltdown to check in on what you're carrying. Give yourself space to reflect, to release, and like reset regularly without judgment, and create some emotional space for your gifts and strengths to actually show up again. Now, how we do this, like, start with what I call like the evening reset ritual. Like this, once again, designed to be simple and quick and just but wildly effective for you. Every night before bed, take a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and ask yourself, like, you know, what frustrated me today that I don't want to carry with into tomorrow? You know, how was I harder on myself than I needed to be? You know, what do I need to forgive myself for from today? You're not just doing that. You're not just trying to, it's not because you're beating yourself up. You're doing it to let yourself off the hook. Maybe you missed a deadline, you lost your patience with your kids, you froze in a meeting, and like that doesn't define you. It's just a part of being human. So you acknowledge it and you learn, like, there's something to like, hey, there's something to learn from this. I'm going to reset, and that's it. I'm going to move forward. And then during the day, something you can do is like, there's the pattern, like this, trigger to compassion. So next time someone, pushes that button, pause and ask yourself, like, is this really about them? Because half the time our reactions aren't about what just happened. They're about stuff that like we haven't forgiven ourselves for. So how do I want to respond to this? Like how have I given myself enough grace for something similar? Have I forgiven something in the past that I need to? This sort of a shift, it softens your reactions. It reconnects you with who you want to be. And then finally, like, block off some minutes. Maybe it's 5 to 10 minutes on Sundays for like some weekly self-compassion check-ins. Ask yourself, like, what am I still holding on to that I don't want to carry? Where was I hardest on myself? Like, what would I say to a friend in that same situation? And then write yourself a note. Celebrate what you want, like what went well. Release what didn't. It isn't like, this isn't fluffy journaling or anything. It's like we're clearing out the energy. We're making space for your gifts to operate freely again without all the emotional traffic clogging all the lanes. If you're walking through life with that emotional debt, especially like self-inflicted, then you're spending so much mental and emotional energy just trying to break even. And that energy could be used to connect with your kids, like lead your business, to step into the version of you who is ready for more. And so this daily emotional maintenance isn't about like, being overly, like we're not being over reflective or soft. Like it's about protecting the ability to stay like emotionally agile. In a world that, throws curveballs at you constantly, like, and self-forgiveness, that's not letting yourself off easy. It's just, hey, recognize that growth doesn't happen, through shame. It happens through compassion and consistency and showing up again with an open heart. So you can't share your gifts if you're weighed down by guilt. And when you like reset regularly and extend yourself some grace, like you not only like clearing out the emotional space, you're fueling the next version of yourself to create greater impact. And then that leads us to, of course, our fourth principle strategy, which is like written expression to release these things. Like there is power in writing these letters, these fake letters to yourself. Like, and you don't have to send them with, like no one needs to read it, but you're just letting go through these unsent letters. Like the truth is, and I've learned this the hard way, not every conversation that needs to happen has to happen out loud. Some of the most healing things that I've ever said were on paper and never sent out loud. And when I became certified as a grief recovery specialist, like we learned that even more. We dive deeper into this idea of like writing out the letter of the things that we're going to move forward from. That's where this sort of a tool comes from, is these unsent letters. And like I said, it's a super powerful way for like forgiveness practices out there, because it lets you say everything without having to like manage everyone's reactions. You get to be honest and unfiltered and real, whether the person you're forgiving is no longer around, like isn't safe to talk to, or just wouldn't hear it out anyway. Like this is space for you to say what you need to say. And here's the wild thing, writing out actually helps your brain process like what talking sometimes can't. There's something about putting the pen to paper, your fingers on the keyboard, like that unlocks thoughts that you didn't even know were there. Finally that you can name that hurt or realize that you actually needed the moment. Like, what do I need now? It might even surprise yourself. Like you might find some unexpected compassion along the way. And so what you want to do, start by like this unsent letter, like honesty letter. Block off some time. You're going to need like 20 minutes, 30 minutes where, you won't be interrupted. And you're sitting down and you write a letter to the person or the part of yourself that, that you're struggling to forgive. And don't hold back. Say exactly what hurt. Spell out what you needed. Let yourself like be raw and real and messy. It's totally okay. You don't need to be fair or polished. Like this isn't a speech, or it's emotional decluttering and getting it out of your body, out of your head, and onto the page. And then after a day or two, come back and do like the what's my wisdom sweep I'm going to do? I'm going to read what I wrote. I'm going to dwell on the pain, but I'm going to mine through it. Like I'm going to highlight the parts where I see growth. I'm going to notice boundaries I wish I would have, set or honored. The values that were violated, the strength it took to get through it. And then write a short follow-up letter to yourself. And this isn't the pity letter, it's the power one. Acknowledge like the resilience that you had. Name the growth you had. Celebrate the wisdom you've gained from something based off like, where you had come from. And the final part is the release ritual, like carrying something that feels meaningful. Like burn the letter, bury it, tear it up, throw it in the trash, like while you play your favorite song. Like it's not about destroying the memory, you're just releasing control, saying something like, I'm done carrying this. Like, I'm releasing this weight. I'm done with it. I don't need this rock in my bag anymore. You know, I'm reclaiming my own energy. And you say it out loud and you say like you mean it. Like, your nervous system needs to hear that you are choosing freedom as a part of that. Like, because let's be real, you are a busy person, whether it's with kids who need your attention, clients who are counting on you, your team members, you know, that you are there to lead. Like, you know, you don't have to, like, you don't always have the time and space to, you know, or safe relationships to have like the big heart healing conversation. And it's okay. You don't have to, because healing doesn't need to be anyone else's permission. The unsent letter gives you that power to just reclaim your peace on your own terms. You don't need their apology. You don't need their validation. You don't need their understanding. You just need the space to tell your truth and release the weight and return to yourself so that your gifts can show up, your leadership, your love, your energy. Like, they're not stuck in the past. They can be now present and authentic to you. You know, this is for you to clear all that emotional baggage. And then that leads us to the fifth one, which is like transform your story and use it to activate your gifts. Like, you go from pain and purpose, you know, from pain to purpose through sort of your perspective, the you know, changing your story so that you can share more and turn your past into new impact. You know, something that is one of the biggest mindset shifts for people in the whole forgiveness journey is like something that changed everything for me. Once I saw it clearly, like, it's not the original hurt that keeps you stuck. It's the story you keep telling yourself. It's the inner loop that you just play on repeat. Like, I failed, I was betrayed, they used me. Like, it's not just draining your energy, right? It's blocking your gifts. And here's the like the good news as a part of this. Like, the story is yours, which means you can change it, you can edit it, you can modify it. I'm not talking about like sugarcoating the past or pretending things didn't hurt, because they did. I'm talking about expanding the narrative so that it includes what you learned, how you've grown, like, and the strength that you earned as a part of that. When you do that, you shift from like, this broke me, you know, this, to like, no, this shaped me to who I am. I am able to do what I can now because of that. Stop being drained, you know, from and defined by the pain, and you start being like powerful by the wisdom that came from it. The moment you let yourself rewrite the story is the moment that you start to notice that your natural strengths are waking back up. Hidden empathy is there. You more insight, you know, quiet courage. It's all been there all along. Like, it's just the resentment crowds the room, and when you clear out the resentment, like, oh my gosh, I've got the space to actually let these gifts all speak again. So here's what you want to do. You can try this where you sit down and do like your story shift reflection, where you pick one hard moment from your past, something that, you know, stings a little when you think about it, you know, and write the story out in your own eyes, how it felt. Get it all out there, and then step back and write it again. But this time imagine like you're the wise observer watching that journey, someone who sees everything, all of humanity, you know, including yours. You know, what changes with how you look at it when you do a little more distance and a little bit more grace? And the most powerful part, write it one more time as the person you are now. What did you experience? What did it teach you about trust, about strength, and what kind of a parent or partner or leader that you want to be? The third version, that's the one that frees you. That's the one that helps you see what you've actually been carrying forward, you know, and how you move past that in that moment. And it's getting beyond the pain. And then you build your gift recovery list. Like, you grab the notebook, you write out like, hey, because I forgave myself, I became more blank. Because I forgave this thing, I became more empathetic. Because I forgave so-and-so for that, I learned, you know, I can trust more, I can be more present, like whatever. Fill in the blanks over time. Like, you just keep doing this over and over. And maybe it's forgiving your parents, you know, helped you become a more present parent yourself. Maybe letting go of a workspace resentment made you a calmer communicator. Like, just keep writing until you see the patterns. Your forgiveness doesn't just lighten the emotional load, it actually strengthens your ability to show up. And then you take it a step further, purpose-driven, like, forgiveness plan. Like, if you know what your gift is, you know, is let's say it's encouraging others. You know, ask yourself, like, what bitterness is still holding my voice back? You know, if your gift is connection, ask yourself, like, well, what if I stop, like, what if I stop trusting, you know, what would it take to reopen? Let the desire to make the difference be the reason that you keep going with your work. Like, your purpose isn't separate from your healing. It's the reason to push through it. You know, this thing matters because, like, it connects forgiveness to something bigger than just moving on. It turns your healing into fuel. And for people like you, parents who want to lead, you know, with emotional honesty, entrepreneurs who want to build integrity, employees who want to rise with clarity. Like, that matters. And when your story changes, your identity changes. And suddenly you're not the person carrying around the old hurt. You're the one who turned it into strength. Your past doesn't shrink your future anymore. Your gifts don't have to be like compete with the pain and resentment that's inside you. They grow because of it. You know, you're not just healing for peace, you're healing for purpose. Every time you forgive, you clear a little bit more space out for who you're becoming. Someone whose impact reaches further because it's rooted in real experience. That's the power of owning your story. That's the freedom of using your gifts without like that. That's what happens when you stop just letting the past narrative, write your future, and you just start writing your own new chapter, yourself moving forward. So, I mean, it's your turn. It's your turn to get your energy back. If I leave you with something that, it took me a long time to realize, the energy that we've been holding on to, the old hurt, the mental space spent replaying conversations, emotional tension tied to people who aren't even in our lives anymore. That's the same energy we could be using to love better, lead wiser, live a more fuller life. We've walked through these shifts that you could do, not because forgiveness is complicated puzzle to undo. It's because it's layered, and every layer you peel back, you get a little bit more of you back. We looked at things like how you spot resentment quietly, without, and the energy it's causing you. How forgiveness and reconciliation don't have to be hand in hand, and that, you absolutely let go without letting them back in. You got these tools for daily emotional stuff. You explored well, gosh, I need self-forgiveness as a part of this, and how writing out things can help you to just gain more clarity, as you want to move forward and grow. Now, the most powerful part of all is that, you saw, when you rewrite your story through the lens of growth, you activate something deeper. You unlock the parts of you that were always there. Your voice, your creativity, your compassion, your wisdom, the gifts that you have. That's the kind of forgiveness that isn't just about finding peace, but finding your purpose. Now, this is your moment. Here's what you do. Pick one person to forgive. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's yourself. Pick one of the practices from today, just one, and just go start doing a 3-minute reset before bed, or writing that letter that you want to send, or maybe it's, admitting, yeah, I've been carrying this a lot longer than I want to be. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to feel ready. You just have to be willing, because the right on the other side of that willingness, gosh, it's going to be that emotional freedom. It's clarity. It's the space you need to create relationships and impact that you've been craving and already have the ability to build if you just free up the space in your brain. Now, if you're ready to keep going, if you want to dive deeper into the work that you can do with you uncovering your gifts, once you start finding forgiveness and creating room, I want to develop these gifts and superpowers to make a greater impact. And once again, that's why I would go grab your copy of the GIVER Method. It's filled with real tools to help you stop carrying what's not yours and start creating the life you want. I'll put the link on Amazon. You can go to givermethod.com. Once again, you can find it in all sorts of places, on all our social medias, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of those sort of places, or thegivermethod.com. Once again, hey, if you've got a community, a podcast team, or stage where, this message could land and make an impact, then I'd love to be a part of that conversation. There's a link in the description that we can make that happen. This isn't about excusing anyone else. It's about reclaiming what's already been yours, that peace and power and your presence. The world doesn't need the guarded version of you. It needs the real you, the one that who's free to give fully. Your emotional freedom isn't some far off dream. It's honestly one small step away if you're willing to just go claim it. And so with that, I will just encourage you to have a great rest of your day. Start your path of forgiveness and open yourself up to what's possible. Have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in our next video.